In your opinion, what is the best argument for intelligent design?
Well, there's really a lot of good arguments for intelligent design, but the one that I've championed most is the argument from the presence of biological information. Most people remember from their high school biology or college biology that in 1953 Watson and Crick discovered the double helix structure of the DNA molecule. A few years later, in 1957, Francis Crick formulated what he called the sequence hypothesis. And the idea of that was that the chemical subunits along the inside of the double helix structure of the DNA are functioning like alphabetic characters in a written language, or digital characters like zeros and ones in the software we use today. And therefore that information is critical to the origin of life, because we know that the DNA is using information to build the proteins and the protein machines that keep cells alive. So if you want to explain where cells came from, or where new forms of animal life came from, you've got to account for the new information that would be needed to build the proteins that service the cells that make either the one-celled organisms or the multicellular animals. And so the origin of information is really the critical unsolved problem by all forms of modern evolutionary theory. And yet we do know of a cause that is sufficient to produce information, and we encounter that all the time, and it's a mind. Bill Gates says that DNA is like a software program, but much more complex than any we've ever created. It's a very suggestive remark, because we know from experience that it takes a programmer to make a computer program to generate information. And in fact, we know that whenever we find information and we trace it back to its source, whether we find it in a section of software, or in a paragraph in a book, or a hieroglyphic inscription, or in a message embedded in a radio signal, whenever we see information and trace it all the way back to its ultimate source, we always come to a mind, not a material process. So the discovery of information at the foundation of life in DNA and RNA and other information-bearing biomacromolecules, I think, is powerful evidence, provides powerful evidence of the activity of a designing mind in the history and origin of life. And that's been the main argument of my first two books, Signature in the Cell and Darwin's Doubt. And then I extend that argument in the new book, looking at other evidences of design, for example, the fine-tuning that's present from the very beginning of the universe, to suggest that it's not just any old designer who could explain all of that evidence. It would need to be a designer that was both active in the creation, but also transcending the creation, and that starts to look a lot like God.
Oh Lord, remind me of your love. love.